Let us pray. As we gather today in person, we give thanks for your abundance on this earth, God. As we realized during the pandemic, our animal friends mean so much to us. Thank you for the comfort animals can bring us, their calming nature and majestic beauty. Thanks for the zoo employees who work diligently behind the scenes during COVID to ensure their safety, and thanks to those who dedicate their lives to caring for and helping us understand our animal kingdom. We ask your blessings that we may continue to grow and learn about the importance animals play in our daily lives. Amen.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Gary. I would like to thank Browning Cousineau, July's monthly sponsor, and thank you, Rotarian Brent Cousineau. I'd like to welcome any guests. Does anyone have any guests they would like to introduce? If you do, please bring them to the floor mic.
President Bob, I have three guests I'd like to introduce today. The first young lady here is Jennifer Van Horn. She is the Vice President of Construction and Planning at the Toledo Zoo. Jennifer is also Vice Chair of the Toledo Design Center and a board member of the Broadway Corridor Coalition. Next to her is Nathan Decker. Nathan is a construction project manager at the Toledo Zoo. And at my far right is Mark Pappas. Mark is a longtime project manager for Dunbar Mechanical. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome Jennifer, Nathan, and Mark.
Good afternoon, President Bob. I would like to introduce Jenny Vansel. She is Lott Industries' new development director. Many of you will know her also from her years at Owens, Illinois, and with the zoo. So, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Jenny.
Okay, I always notice when I come up here I forget names, so I bring business cards to prompt me. First of all, my name's Nelson Schaefer. And then my guest for today is Haifa Hillu. She is with the Financial Design Group, and she's responsible for business development and recruiting of agents who want to be in sales.
Welcome, Haifa. Well, it looks like everybody's got fed, so we should be all set. Remember, please, that it's time to join committees. As I've said before, they're what make our club tick. That's how we give away money. That's how we get things done. That's how you develop relationships. If you are not on a committee, then it's about time you join one. Used to be, when I first started, it was a requirement. All new Rotarians had to join at least 2 committees. If you didn't join one, you would be assigned one. We shouldn't have to do that. So jump in there, give a hand. Everybody's got some good work to do. If you can't find the form online, just call Abby. She'll get you signed up. Now I'd like to invite Joe Sharp to the podium to introduce new member Greg LaScala.
Thank you all. It's my pleasure today to introduce Greg. As a new member, he is the CEO of LaScala, a managed services provider. Greg founded his namesake company focused on providing customized and scalable IT and security solutions for organizations of all sizes. For more than 20 years, Greg worked in corporate America, assuming senior management roles in manufacturing, healthcare, and finance. He built his IT and security expertise for businesses like La-Z-Boy, Capricorn Diversified Systems, and a 35-location residential rehab center. Over the last decade, Greg has spearheaded La Scala's client-first approach to business and has grown the company to 50-plus technical experts. He is a certified veteran-owned small business, and the La Scala team works 24/7 to ensure companies they support have a solid foundation for business-critical information. Greg and his team are also members of the following CMMC accreditation body and a registered practitioner. This program is designed for those who have the ability and desire to serve the Department of Defense supply chain as an advisor and to provide managed IT and security services that align with the CMMC. They're also members of National Tooling and Machining Association. Greg and his wife, Justine, have 7 children and 3 grandchildren, and his pet peeve is, I don't like making the same mistake twice. Please welcome Greg.
Thank you. I appreciate the warm welcome. Everybody's been very pleasant and nice so far, but we haven't talked about IT or security yet, so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe, and welcome, Greg. And Greg, which committee would you like to sign up for? Now I'd like to invite past President Dick Wolf up, and he is going to give you an update on executive directors.
Thanks, Bob. Hello, everybody. Our search committee is in gear to replace Kathy as our executive director, and I just wanted to fill in everybody in about the process. By the end of this week, we will have posted the position on several platforms that we think will be worthwhile to attract candidates. We're setting up an email. It's hr@toledorotary.org, and that will be where candidates can go to apply, get information on the position. I want to encourage any Rotarian who is interested in the position to apply. And if you know anybody outside of Rotary, we hope you'll publicize that we're looking for an executive director and encourage those people also to apply. The plan is to have applications closed by August 3rd. We'll then cull the applications that week, narrow it down, and have interviews the following week. And it is our sincere hope by Labor Day we will have a new executive director. Which who will obviously have to be approved by the board. Kathy has graciously agreed to stay on till the end of September to help train that person. So again, if you have any questions about it, please contact me, contact Kathy. We'll be happy to answer, and we look forward to working on this process, and we think we'll have several great candidates apply. So thank you very much.
Thanks for all that hard work, Dick. Appreciate it. Next, I would like to invite Don Yerkes up to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, sir. I've been a member of the Toledo Zoo for about 35 years. The Toledo Zoo and Aquarium is indeed one of the crown jewels of Northwest Ohio. Therefore, I am very pleased to introduce today's speaker, Jeff Saylor. Jeff is the CEO and Executive Director of the Toledo Zoo and Aquarium. Jeff came to Toledo right at 9 years ago in 2012. During his tenure, the zoo has renovated several historic buildings, including the aquarium, the ProMedica Museum of Natural History, and the Lodge, which is now known as the Nancy L. and Martin Davison Barnyard. As a member, I appreciate the efforts that Jeff and his staff make to keep the zoo fresh with upgrades and changes virtually every year. Our Toledo Zoo was voted the best zoo in the country by USA Today and has been recognized numerous times for best zoo lights display. Again, as an individual that has visited zoos from coast to coast, I can attest that these awards are well deserved. I remember the big news when the zoo hit 1 million customers or 1 million visitors in the first time in 1988. But under Jeff's leadership, the zoo now averages over 1 million visitors each and every year. Our zoo is recognized both nationally and globally for its conservation and education programs. Most recently, the zoo opened a free preschool program to provide our metro region's children access to the zoo regardless of their socioeconomic status. Prior to coming to Toledo, Jeff served as the director of city zoos for the Wildlife Conservation Society in New York City. In this position, Jeff managed the Central Park Zoo, the Prospect Park Zoo, and the Queen Zoo. He had this position for 6 years. Previous to that, Jeff was the curator of birds at the Miami, Florida Zoo for 5 years. Jeff's higher education includes a bachelor's degree from Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. He has a master's degree in zoology from the University of Mexico, University of Florida. Sorry about that. Big difference. I look forward to learning more about what Jeff and his team have in store for our zoo. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Saylor.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing me to come speak to you today. I think it's been probably 4 or 5 years since I spoke to Rotary. Usually it's right around levy time, which here we are again. It's levy time, so surprise, here I am. I thought what I would do, because a lot of people like to ask, is go through sort of how the zoo managed to get through 2020 and where we are in 2021. As I'm sure all of you experience in your own businesses, there were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of figuring things out as you go, and the zoo was no different. But I'm very, very proud of the team at the zoo. They did a fantastic job in 2020, and the zoo came out of it as vibrant and as successful as ever. So I would be remiss in not thanking the zoo's employees for that. So the COVID pandemic. The zoo closed on March 15th of last year. But we have the benefit of being part of a national association, and so even though here in Ohio things didn't really start to get worrisome until about mid-March, our colleagues in Seattle had been dealing with this for over a month. And we had been in communication with them and with others throughout the world, seeing what they were dealing with regards to this virus. And so we began our planning for what we would do if the virus became a pandemic in the United States way back in February. So we were ready to go when it was time to close on the 15th, and we were closed for 3 months. During that time, that was spring break, that was the beginning of summer. There was a lot of uncertainty. The governor's office would change the rules quite frequently. Everyone stayed tuned for the weekly address to see what we were going to be allowed to do and what we weren't. Unfortunately, in the state of Ohio, zoos were lumped in with entertainment attractions, amusement parks like Cedar Point. And yet we operate in a little bit different manner. But that results in us being closed a little bit longer and having a little bit different rules for how we would operate. I would say that when we did finally close on March 15th, we did that with a plan that was really looking to how could we provide for the safety and security of our staff, our animals, and to some point in the near future, our guests. And I'm very lucky in that I have a very diverse team at the zoo as well in all the different sort of hats everyone wears. And one of the first things we did was jump to trying to get a bunch of these HVAC sterilizers that hospitals and the like do. And we were a little bit ahead of the game there, and so we were able to install these ionization devices in all of our critical buildings from day one, basically, of the pandemic. You know, we have a very susceptible collection when it comes to COVID-19. Our apes are all susceptible to it. Our big cats are all susceptible to it. The bears, the wolves, pretty much just about everything that people think of when they think of the zoo, outside of the elephants and the giraffes, are somewhat susceptible to it. So we made it a point to get those sterilizers in the 8 buildings right away. We also knew that staff has to be on grounds, and so we did our best to get sterilizing units in the aquarium, in the administration building, in the museum, and all these different places so that we would have a little bit of a sense of well-being to ensure that, you know, we were doing the best we could for our staff. At the same time, I've got a pretty top-notch conservation and science team at the zoo, and we didn't just want to spend the money on these sterilizers and call it a day. We actually went in and put out petri dishes that we had inoculated with fungus, bacteria, virus, what have you, and found that when you turn the HVAC sterilizers on, it would actually knock those petri dishes back, even out in the environment. So we were able to even show that what we did had a meaningful impact and made it a little bit better for our staff. And knock on wood, to date, no animal has tested positive for it. Even though the gorillas scared us last week with a cold, they in fact were fine. They didn't have COVID-19, which was good, because not much you can do when a gorilla's got a cold or COVID-19. You just sort of go from there. The other thing we had to do was we really had to look at our finances, and we have a large portion of our budget goes to seasonal and part-time labor, and of course that got cut right from the start. But that also allowed us to reduce our expenses greatly and helped us pass through those 3 months. At the same time, we have different parts of our business stream that couldn't operate during COVID, but at the same time we couldn't afford to jettison. So for example, our catering business, that business produces an enormous amount of revenue every year. It's one of our more diverse streams, but for those 3 months, we weren't operating any events at all, and you couldn't really take the chance and send those people home. I really hand it to that group. They took an idea I had offhand to basically make meals for families, and we created our Meals on the Go program and advertised those online. And every Tuesday, people would line up to get their meals to take home and to share with their families. And at the same time, we were able to use this as a vehicle to encourage people to donate to support the zoo during these 3 months, but also to encourage them to help us support first responders. And so several of these weeks, we also had our customers underwrite meals for fire departments, nurses, doctors, EMTs, and the like, and we're able to provide food throughout the community during those first few months of the pandemic. And I have to hand it to them. That team did a fantastic job. In those, the 5 months that program was really active, they brought in $140,000 just in selling meals to go, which paid for them during that period of time and kept them ready to go for when the events did come back. And they came back with a real passion. We were back to offering events last fall. We even had some proms that we were able to do. And almost every wedding from 2020 got pushed to 2021. So we have 65 weddings we're trying to accomplish right now this summer. And like all of you, nobody works anymore. So we're trying to do that with almost no staff. Most of the administration crew is out flipping hamburgers on weekends or serving wine at weddings. It's all hands on deck, because despite having hundreds of open positions, we still don't have people to fill those positions. So hopefully that changes before lights, but I'm not holding my breath. We're still looking for ways to make things more efficient, and at the end of the day, save money. The interesting thing was there was an incredible demand for the zoo experience when we did open back up. And even though for the entire year of 2020, I think the percentage was 49% of our normal attendance is what we got, so a little under 500,000 people. By Lights Before Christmas, we were at 80% of normal attendance. So it just came roaring back when it came back, and we're seeing that this year as well. Don was telling me about a recent weekend visit where he happened to hit the 7,000 person Friday, followed by a 10,000 person Saturday. Those are Lights Before Christmas numbers, and that's what people are doing now, coming to the zoo on the weekdays and weekends to enjoy it. So we're doing quite well this year, in that there's a lot of people who want to come out and see the zoo. I will tell you, like businesses throughout the region, we're all going to be happy when fall comes and we don't have nearly the stress on us for having to staff up. We also didn't want to spend 2020 just reacting to the pandemic, and we needed things to keep us looking forward and to keep us in decent morale. So Don mentioned we converted the lodge to the Nancy L. and Martin Davidson Barnyard. We built that in-house during the pandemic. I couldn't be prouder of the staff. The maintenance team did all the outdoor yards. We brought in all the animals. This is one of the pigs. I really love these pigs. They're from Hungary, and they have a wool. They've got very long woolly hair. They nearly went extinct, and then a couple of foodies that had some high-end restaurants in Chicago and New York went and saved the last couple of hundred sows, and they're making a comeback because they're one of the best salami and bacon pigs in the world. I haven't got to try it yet, so. But a really neat animal, and one that can be outside here the year round and the public can see. And it was great to be able to reopen the zoo with a brand new experience. So not only were people getting back to coming out to the zoo, but they got to come out to a new exhibit and one that they could interact with the animals. So the new barnyard is there, where at one time the lodge was originally the elephant building, and then it became an event center, and our event centers have diversified and multiplied, and so we didn't really need that building for that anymore, so we turned it into an animal building again, and it was a very low cost and really interactive, immersive exhibit, and we couldn't be happier with it. We also had a baby gorilla born in the middle of the pandemic. Dealing with the great apes beyond just what little we knew about how the virus was transmitted back in the early times in the pandemic didn't really change. We don't go in with these animals without masks and gloves anyways, because just about everything we can carry as a disease they can catch, and just about everything they carry as a disease we can catch. So we've always masked up around our primates, and so nothing really changed in that area. And thankfully this little guy, Michael, was born and is doing quite well. We also had an incredible Lights Before Christmas. By that point, we knew a lot more about how to manage the virus. We had learned a lot during the summer on how to take care of the lines, get people in and out. We used our reservation system, and actually were able to even out the experience for the number of people per evening, and had a fairly normal number of people attending Lights, but none of the really spiky days like you would have seen in the past that would have shut down the trail. So it was another great learning experience. We will probably keep that system into the future because it was a great way of understanding how we needed to staff, and it was a great way to make sure that we didn't have these boom or bust days. Everyone still got to go and enjoy Lights, but they got to enjoy it in a sustainable fashion. We also got to move our reindeer over to the new petting zoo for Lights Before Christmas. It was a great new experience for the kids that were coming to Lights Before Christmas. You can get an idea of the construction there of the new barnyard outside the lodge. And then 2021 rolled around, and we announced a very big acquisition to the zoo. This is the old Jennison Wright property that you may remember, that's along the trail. It goes from South Street all the way to the zoo. The blue, green, and yellow are part of that. The zoo was able to acquire the blue and green pieces of that, and we have a purchase contract for the yellow with Jennison Wright, and we are moving forward to the mitigation of that. Jennifer and her team are actually running that entire project. It's a lot of moving parts because we're working with Ohio EPA, Norfolk Southern, the county and the city, and you name it, there's always somebody new coming out of the woodwork who's working with us on it. And that project will be done in about 2 years. And I think I put the slide in here. Yeah, so it shows you we're going to be able to turn this into a new parking lot. This was huge for me personally because we began discussing this piece of property back in 2012, 2013. Myself, I know the board at the time had discussed this property over the years, even before that. Never could figure out how to make it work. It's a brownfield, and everyone has a story about this brownfield. I believe at one point it was actually on fire, the whole thing, and was in a in a Blade article. And of course, we could never put animals on it because for two reasons. It didn't matter how much you mitigated it. The problem is zoo animals almost invariably die of cancer anyways because they get to such advanced ages. And the problem is if you put any of them on something that had been a brownfield, whether you had mitigated it or not, everyone would have immediately thought, oh, they caught cancer from the brownfield. So there was just no way that was going to work. And finally got the idea that we would just flip the model we had now and turn this into a parking lot. And that would then allow us in the future to develop the parking lot that's on the north side of Anthony Wayne Trail and allow us to put new exhibits there and sort of break this idea that we're a landlocked facility. So we're moving forward with converting this into a parking lot. It'll be great for the community in the short term, and that anytime we have an event like Jeep Fest, we'll have this parking lot there that you can go use. Once we get the tunnel put in underneath the railroad tracks and connect it to a new entrance to the historic zoo, we can look at developing our current parking lot. But this acquisition was thinking of the zoo's future 20, 30 years down the road. It was needing to get this piece of property secured, needing to get it cleaned up, making Toledo look nicer, but also putting us in a position where we have a lot of opportunity in the future, beyond even my tenure at the zoo, where it'll allow us to do great new things and continue to be fresh and continue to bring people in from farther and farther away. So stay tuned. This has been a big effort, and it's going to continue to be a big effort until it's actually done. Oh, a blank slide. There we go. And then we also had these little guys born in 2021. This is the first tiger births in about 10 years. In fact, the mother tiger was born at the zoo about a year before I arrived, and her mother was born at the zoo sometime before that. So this is the fourth generation of this line to live at the Toledo Zoo. We were really worried she was too old to breed. She finally got a recommendation from our National Association, and we brought a male in from a zoo in Grand Rapids, and he was about 3 years old, much, much bigger than her, and had absolutely no idea what to do. And at the same time, putting two tigers together is not something you want to do lightly. It's not like you can get in there with your dogs and knock them over the nose with a newspaper if they don't like each other. And they're kind of equipped to do some major damage if they don't like each other. Now, in our situation, it was a little bit of benefit that he was younger and naive because he was also bigger and stronger. And when we put the two of them together, Talia, the female, she really was quite willing, and then got offended that he didn't know what he was going to do, and she proceeded to box him a few times, and then cornered him in the bedroom one day, and we had to separate them. But about 6 months in, he figured out what was necessary, and these little guys came along earlier this spring. And so it's a great accomplishment. There are very few zoos that still have the staff that knows how to put these animals together and can do it in a way that's successful. A lot of that is just having the foresight and the nerve to know that it's going to be a pretty spectacular introduction, and you've got to be ready to kind of internalize a little of that and understand that a little of that's going to go on. And it's quite scary with the roaring and the spitting and the what have you. But once the two cats know what's going on, it moves pretty smoothly. So I couldn't be prouder of the team for that as well. And then I'd be remiss in saying that we also wanted to take the time that we had during 2020 and early 2021 to really reevaluate where the zoo was in relation to the community as a whole. Because while we have a mission, we're a mission-centered organization, we have a lot of things that we need to do to meet that mission. We also understand our place in the community. And as one of the larger businesses in town, one of the larger employers, and an entity that does an enormous amount of advertising outside of the Toledo area, one that brings in people enormous number of people from outside the Toledo area. There's a lot that we can do for the community that aligns with our mission. And so we reaffirmed that and reaffirmed that the sort of the key point to our mission and our strategy is going to be one around stewardship. And whether that's stewarding the quality of life of not only our staff, but of the public and providing these great zoo experiences. I mean, the number of people who come up to me and tell me they've got a photo of themselves riding one of those concrete statues at the zoo, or their kids got a picture of them on the concrete statue, or grandparents have a picture of themselves on the concrete statue. It's amazing. Or, you know, Don at 35 years, a member, that puts you right in about median for the number of years. I run into people all the time, not even just here. I ran into an 85-year-old man from Bellefontaine, Ohio, who mentioned that he'd been a member of the zoo for over 60 years, and he hasn't been here since 1980. That shows the love for this community and the fact that people do think this adds to their quality of life, and we're looking at continuing that stewardship of that trust. But also with our zoo animals and making sure the animals are here for the public to enjoy and that their welfare is taken care of. All the work we do in the local environment, we do a lot of restoration work. That was another great product that just exploded during the pandemic, was our native plant sales and some of our landscaping work that we do around the community. We do an enormous amount with local business. You know, between our capital program, which is pretty large, we bring in and contract with a lot of businesses around town, but not just with construction. We do that with all the different products that we buy and then later sell. During the mid part of the pandemic, we were able to bring in food trucks and different restaurateurs and the like that could come into the zoo and get a kind of a captured audience to be able to sell their products to, which was great, to be able to help them not only raise their awareness to the public of their product, but also help them make a little money. And last but not least, we have this commitment to the stewardship of the cultural heritage of the zoo. You know, we have some fantastic pieces of architecture that are truly assets of Toledo. They were built during the Works Progress Administration or before. We have three buildings that are actually older than the Works Progress Administration. And we've put a huge emphasis on continuing to preserve sort of the soul of those buildings, to keep the sense, the essence of that architecture alive, and to make them relevant and usable today. So in the last 9 years, we've been able to renovate the aquarium, the historic museum, that's now the ProMedica Museum of Natural History, and that lodge. And if you haven't seen any of those or have missed one or two of them, I encourage you to come out and see them, because they're really quite fantastic exhibits. And when you look at something like the ProMedica Museum of Natural History, I'm pretty proud of that one, because we have pictures of it being built when these folks that were experiencing the Great Depression were being put back to work with the WPA. They're all out there. You can see the brick that makes up that building was all recycled from buildings downtown that had been torn down at the time. It was rock work that came out of the old Erie Canal. It was just this great community effort to build that museum. And if you think about all of the different contractors and designers and people that came together to renovate it, it's almost the exact same experience 80 years later. And we're going to have a fantastic venue for the community for hopefully another 80 years as a result. So with that in mind, we are presently raising cash right now to build a new exhibit for our brown bears. We're doing this outside of our capital levy. We're raising all this money ourselves, and we're over halfway there. We're going to break ground on this fall, and this will allow our 3 rescued brown bears to have a much larger exhibit and to have a much better experience for our guests. A lot of opportunity for children to interact safely with the bears and to learn and be educated about them. So stay tuned for that. That's going to open Memorial Day of next year. So it'll be another great new addition to the zoo. And finally, you knew I was going to get to it, we are actually going to go out for an operating levy again this year. It will be a renewal, but once again, we are reducing it. So we're going to reduce it by 0.1 mils again, like we did in 2016. And so compared to this time in 2016, the total levy will be reduced by 24%. We've worked extremely hard to build the business at the zoo, to make it sustainable for the community, and we think it's very important that we give back by reducing this levy whenever we can. And this has been, I mean, Zach is responsible for bringing me to town and knows I was talking about this from day one, and we're moving on it. So I couldn't be happier with the staff for allowing us to accomplish this. At this point, once, if this passes, the community supports us, the new millage will support 15% of next year's budget, but that's projected to drop below 12 or 11% in the next levy cycle. So we're continuing to make ourselves more and more sustainable and more resilient to the different changes that occur within a business. This graph is a little difficult to read because my finance people kind of did it in reverse. So where you see the shorter bars, those are more recent years, and the taller bars are farther in the past. So it's kind of the reverse of what you'd expect on a graph. The top line, you can see the millage as it dropped the first time from 0.85 to 0.75. And the percentage of what the levy has made up of the zoo's expenses is that dark green line down the middle. And so you can see it's been reduced a number of ways over time. One, we reduced it as we've grown the zoo, but two, house valuations changed quite a bit after the 2008 financial crisis. And the levy at one point produced $2 million more than it presently does. Most of that disappeared via the valuation. So we were already moving in a situation where we had to account for less public support. We're just doing it now in a way to give a recognition to the community for all the years that they've supported us and our desire to once again really be a better and better business. So this new levy, I think, will reduce a taxpayer's commitment by about $3 a year. It's only about a $17 charge anyways. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but over the entire county, it actually brings in about $600,000 less. We'll be beginning our campaign very shortly, and we hope we can get the support of the community. So I wanted to bring this to all of your attention. Many of you are leaders in the business community here in Toledo, and I just want you to know that we also understand that it's not just homeowners that pay this tax. It's businesses that pay this tax. And businesses, to some extent, take on the lion's share of that tax. So this is also a great opportunity for us to thank all those in business in Toledo by asking for a reduced levy. So with that, I'd be happy to open it up for questions. Yeah.
Could you come out on the Sunday Zoo concerts and parents get over there? The Sunday Zoo concerts?
Yeah, so we are still doing the Music Under the Stars, and actually we've diversified that a bit and increased the number of dates. So I believe this year we were shooting for 8 Sundays. Those are free to the public. You access I don't know if we're accessing the zoo through Broadway or through the main lot, probably both. But we've also been going out and getting a diversity of groups to entertain the public. So it's not just the symphony as it was in the past, it's a lot of different places, different bands from Maumee, Sylvania, and where have you, and it's been very, very well received. A lot of people that are in assisted living homes come out to that. They're brought out by those homes, and it's a great way for those individuals to have something to do that costs them nothing. We get sponsors for it, so we're able to do it, and it makes use of that beautiful amphitheater that we have at the zoo. Anything else? No?
If you have questions for our speaker, please go to the floor microphone. Thank you.
Wow. Oh, here comes one.
What's the status of the zip line? I live in South Toledo and drive down the trail a fair amount, and I don't seem to see much activity.
Well, we didn't start it up until Memorial Day, but it is going strong. It's got a lot more visitors on it than it's had in the past. It's also part of our total experience package with our memberships. And so there's quite a bit of usage going on with it. So we're really pleased with it. And I'll tell you, just about every zoo in the country is now mimicking it. So we were the first AZA zoo to have one that went over our giraffe and our animals like that. And, you know, quietly, no one says anything about it. The next thing you know, they're popping up everywhere. So we must have done something right. Anything else?
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the Savannah. When I was there a week ago, it looked like you're doing some changing
Well, that big Africa exhibit that was built, I think opened around 2005. It's a really nice exhibit. It's huge, but most of the animals out there can only be outside when it's warm. And so for a big chunk of the Toledo year, there's nothing out there. So we worked on some very aesthetic ways of dividing it up where you can't really tell there's even a division, and we'll be able to put some different animals in different sections of it. And so now during lights, when you take the train, there'll be animals out on that exhibit that you can actually see. So we're always doing something new and always looking for a way to provide for a better experience. And the zoo continues to develop new revenue centers and new ways for the public to interact. You know, you mentioned that we average over 1 million guests a year. Over 100,000 of those guests are coming to evening events like weddings, cocktail parties, and the like. So 100,000 people are just coming to our catering business. And so there's a need to continue to adjust the experience so that there's a lot to offer there. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff, for fantastic presentation, really informative, and we're going in the right direction with the zoo ever since you came.
Thank you.
We'd like to present you with a gift of a book, Historical Tales of Toledo, by past President Clint Mock, and we also will be making a donation to the Polio Plus Foundation in your name.
Well, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Great job. And it's that time again. And here he comes, sneaking up to the podium. He still won't sign his renewal contract, but he's holding out. Past President Chuck Mann, sorry.
So did you hear the one about the 2 tigers in the zoo that, no. Well, I can't use that one, so we'll try this. A man walks out on his front porch one day and sees a gorilla in the tree on his front yard. He calls animal control, and about an hour later, a man shows up with a ladder, a pit bull, and a shotgun. The animal control employee tells the man, "I'm here to get the gorilla out of your tree. I'm going to use this ladder to climb up the tree, then I'm going to shake the branch the gorilla is standing on to knock him to the ground. The pit bull is trained to go after anything that falls from the tree and bites them in a very sensitive spot, which calms the animal down so I can put him in the truck." The man says, "Okay, I see what the ladder and pit bull are for, but what is the shotgun for?" The animal control employee says, "Oh, that's for you in case I fall out of the tree instead of the gorilla."
Thanks again, Chuck. Always fun. All right, next week, Monday, July 26th, our speaker will be Jason Abadili from Sunshine Communities. And Jason's topic will be serving the developmentally disabled during COVID. Should be interesting. There are no committee meetings after this meeting, and we are adjourned.